Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Today's topic is about one of the latest developments in artificial intelligence and machine learning, that is self-supervised learning, short form SSL. The video covers what is self-supervised learning, what are its applications, how SSL works, what are the types of SSL, and challenges when developing SSL models. The well-known traditional machine learning algorithms are supervised learning and unsupervised learning. Supervised learning needs labeled data for predictions. Unsupervised learning uses unlabeled data. Supervised learning is time-consuming and expensive. Unsupervised learning is less expensive than supervised learning, but there are high chances of noise in the unsupervised machine learning models as the data is not labeled. Labeled data is limited and not readily available. Unlabeled data is plentiful, abundant, and is readily available. To fix the pros and cons of supervised and unsupervised learning, a new machine learning called self-supervised learning evolved as a result of long series of gradual improvements to the initial variations and types of machine learning algorithms. Self-supervised learning, short form SSL, is hybrid type of machine learning in which the algorithm learns patterns from unlabeled data by generating supervisory signals from the data itself. What is the meaning of supervisory signals here? Supervisory signal means the self-supervised learning input data, which is unlabeled data, guides the model learning process as labeled in supervised learning. Why do we need self-supervised learning SSL? The key idea of self-supervised learning is to use the abundant, unlabeled data to learn inherent structures and patterns in the data and build efficient machine learning models at low cost. SSL is used to train models to predict certain features of text input or image input without the need for explicit data labels. What are the applications of self-supervised learning? Self-supervised learning is used in large language models and natural language processing (NLP) in vision models, computer vision (CV) to predict the missing words in a text or missing part of an image, or to reconstruct text, reconstruct an image, image classification, etc. Next slide. Let us try to understand how self-supervised learning SSL works. How SSL learns from unlabeled data. What are the techniques SSL uses to learn from unlabeled data? SSL performs pretext tasks that allow models to learn patterns from raw data without the need for explicit data labeling. SSL understands the inherent structure and patterns within the unlabeled data to generate supervised signals for training AI models. Pretext is an important concept and technique in self-supervised learning. SSL defines pretext tasks that allow AI model to learn patterns and representations from unlabeled dataset. Pretext task captures complex features from unlabeled data, generate learning signals from the data itself. Pretext task teaches model to extract features from input data without human-provided labels. Pretext tasks use supervisory signals to find the gaps in images, text, and fill those gaps. What is the input and output of pretext task? If input to pretext task is grayscale image, pretext task identify the color of the image, predict the rotation angle of an image. Pretext task also solves jigsaw puzzles of mask image. The jigsaw puzzles helps the model to learn relative position of different patches in the image. Let us look at some examples in detail. If you rotate some images by 90 degree, 180, 270 degree, self-supervised learning with the help of pretext can learn the rotation angle. When set of images are rotated at random, pretext can predict the angle by which images are rotated. Whether image is rotated at 90 or 180 or any other angle. Here the plane in blue is original image. Then plane image is rotated at random, say rotated right by 90 and then by 180 degree. SSL predicts the rotation angle of the plane in orange color. Another example. In an image, some portion of the image is missing. SSL can take help of pretext task, can predict the missing part and complete the image. Let's say models are trained with cat images like cat in picture blue. We have picture where some part of the cat image is missing or masked. Then self-supervised learning can predict the missing part. Similarly for text, for example, sentence, the sky is followed by blank. Some part of the sentence is missing. Pretext can provide the missing part, that is limit. The appropriate word will be given better score than other words. So the sentence, sky is the limit. But how does pretext understands the missing part in image or missing part in the text? The missing part of image are identified through augmentation. Augmentation helps in generalization of the data. Data augmentation increases diversity in the data. But how to create diverse data and how data augmentation increases the diversity in the data? It is simple technique. To create diverse data, create different views of input image. That is, take an input image and then create variations of image by resizing the image or cropping the image or blur the input image. Then train the model to identify the input images. These data augmentation techniques of pretext task increase diversity in data, hence better generalization of data. This also prevents overfitting problems which we observe in AI models. As model learns more robust features from diverse variations, model becomes more efficient and provide more accurate results. After training the model on this pretext task of spatial relationships, structure of image, color, rotation, masking, solving jigsaw puzzles, the learning representations are fine-tuned for downstream applications requiring label data like image classification and object detection. This makes the model highly efficient. What is downstream task? Self-supervised learning has three main steps. First step, pretext, where unlabeled data is used to create supervisory signals and learns the texture, missing parts of image or missing words in a text. Pretext extracts complex features from the input unlabeled data. Second step is data augmentation. In this, data is generalized and diversified by creating variations of input image like resize image, blurring images. Generalized data increases accuracy of the model by avoiding problems like bias, overfitting. Third step is downstream. As we already have supervisory signals from pretext task, in downstream task, model is trained on Labeled dataset. For example, in downstream, model can recognize the faces in an image. Downstream model is used in image classification, object detection, etc. Training a model from scratch needs massive amount of labeled data which is expensive. Therefore, pretext task is used to learn from unlabeled data, generate supervisory signals, and pass the labeled data for downstream tasks which are actual applications. In simple words, downstream tasks fine-tunes the learnings from pretext task. Now you may have question. Both unsupervised and self-supervised learnings use unlabeled data. Then what is the difference between unsupervised learning and self-supervised learning? Input to unsupervised learning is unlabeled data. Output of unsupervised learning is clusters. Unsupervised learning uses algorithms like k-means to form clusters. Input to self-supervised learning is also unlabeled data. Self-supervised learning uses techniques like pretext task, data augmentation to generate supervisory signals and then downstream the task. Self-supervised learning can generate missing part of image or text. AI models like BERT, bidirectional encoders, representation from transformers, and GPT, generative pre-trained transformers, use self-supervised learning for predicting missing words. Unsupervised learning may have noise due to unlabeled data. Self-supervised learning uses two steps, pretext and downstream, hence less noise and more efficient model at low cost. Next slide. In next slide, we'll look into types of supervised learning. We'll look into the types of supervised learning in detail. In this slide, we'll look into different types of supervised learning, that is self-supervised learning. Contrastive learning. In this learning, model learns to compare pair of inputs. Similar samples are closer, dissimilar samples are apart. Contrastive learning pulls positive pairs together and push negatives apart. For example, classifying the image of animals. Model learns features of animals and group same animals like dogs, cats closer while those of different animals like birds are far apart. Cluster-based learning. Models cluster the data by assigning pseudo-labels to the clusters. Here the clusters have different views of the same image without the need for negative pairs. For example, clusters-based learning can have different views of a dog picture, capturing the eyes and eye and ears in one view, nose and tail in another view. Generative self-supervised learning. In this, generate data as pretext task. Reconstruct original images. Generative SSL is used in VAEs, variational autoencoders. VAEs are used in computer vision. For more details on VAEs and computer vision, please watch the video on computer vision in this video's playlist. Next, masked modeling. This learns by predicting missing parts of an image or text. Learns semantic understanding. This we saw in previous slide like missing parts of cat and missing words in a sentence. Predictive modeling. Predicts the temporal sequence. Used in task, shuffle and learn. Rotation prediction. This also we covered in previous slides. Contextual prediction. Predict around the context to capture the relationship around target words or images instead of looking at data in isolation. Contextual prediction is about observing surroundings. Moving on to the next slide. Self-supervised development challenges. First, data selection. Need large amount of unlabeled data. Even though unlabeled data is almost readily available, collecting and preparing unlabeled data set for the given requirement can be sometimes time consuming. Next, task selection. Choose suitable pretext task to learn features. Tasks should encourage the model to learn features that can be transferred to downstream tasks like the masked task, image classification examples which we saw in previous slides. Downstream task. This may sometimes have issues with the transferability. Self-supervised learning learns representations for downstream tasks, but its performance may not always match with supervised learning in case where transferring of tasks are different from pre-trained domain tasks. Hyperparameters. Tune hyperparameters like learning rate, batch size, epochs for model to converge fast. Choosing incorrect batch size learning rate may result in low convergence of the model. Bias and overfitting. Ensure the data is diverse and generalization of data to avoid overfitting bias issues. The next biggest challenge is performance evaluation of self-supervised learning. Though SSL starts with unlabeled data, pretext task which slowly moves to downstream task which is based on labeled data of supervisory signals. For performance evaluation, SSL needs labeled data. Self-supervised learning performance evaluation can be challenging without labeled data. This brings us to the end of today's topic, self-supervised learning. I hope you liked this video. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel and let me know your comments. See you in the next video. Until then, happy learning. Thank you for watching.